NET, Black Journal, show number 10, 5830, 32869.
The following program is from NET, the Public Television Network.
Hey, good evening. Jambo. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I'm Lou House of William Greaves, welcoming you to another edition of Black Journal. And tonight on Black Journal, we'll focus on conditions of black people in the South. For months, the crisis of the Nigerian Civil War has received a major play in the American and world press. Sentiment for the starving citizens of Biafra and offers of assistance have come from various sections of white America. And we might remind white America that there is a Biafra in our own backyard. Black people are wondering when the United States will come to recognize what some observers have called Biafra American style.
This child here, whom we have seen today, is Vincent Johnson, who was born January 15th, 1967. He's a little over 2 years of age. This is the first time we've seen him. We examined Vincent, and when we weighed Vincent, we found that his weight was about 22 pounds. Now, the average weight of a child this age should be about 28 to 29 pounds. He's 6 to 7 pounds below the weight that he should be at this age. What we have seen is that when food supplies are given and medical attention is given, when the respiratory infections, the low blood counts are treated, that these children start to grow. So that it seems to be a simple cause and effect relationship between the absence of proper food and the failure to thrive.
In a study of the children in Bolivar County, Mississippi, the Tufts Delta Health Center found, to their surprise, that babies up to 3 months of age were as much as 20% above the established norms. However, from 3 months on, they lost this advantage, and by the time they were 1 year old, they had dropped to the average for middle-class children. The drop continued, and by the time they reached 2 and 3 years of age, some of the children were as much as 15% below the norms. The total deprivation in which these children live affects not only their physical development, but also their intellectual development.
We saw so much mild and moderate anemia in these children that we began to wonder if our standards were wrong, because the levels of hemoglobin and the red cell numbers that we find in these children are definitely below that is reported in the literature, are reported in the literature. We found that the children virtually never had meat nor any other good solid animal protein. And we found, for example, that one child hadn't had meat in well over a couple of months.
We made a study of about every third child in the group that we had to determine the parasites present. And we found that something like over 33% had some type of parasite or worm present in the stew.
One of the great, still unresolved problems is that of taking care of the indigent mothers of this county and the surrounding counties. They simply do not get adequate medical attention. And as a private organization, we're very limited in how much we can do. It cannot be resolved by private organizations alone. It has to be resolved by either the federal government or local government. In the city, we have 3 obstetricians and 3 hospitals. Well, even with all the goodwill in the world, it would be difficult for them to deliver all the children of the county. They're lucky, as they say, to keep up even with their paying patient. So the great need of our community is for several more obstetricians or for 2 general practitioners who would accept maternity cases in their practice.
Last year, I delivered 26 babies and 58. 57, I delivered 38 babies. And 66, I delivered 46 babies. But this is a lot of hard work going from place to place, from day to day. Sometimes you leave home on a Sunday and don't come back till the next Sunday. Sometimes you had to do without water all that time. Some places you go because they don't have water for the drink themselves. They employ me at the first 3 months of pregnancy. They ask me for my advice, what must they do about it, how they must receive prenatal care. I tell them, you go to the clinic or either to your family doctor. You check your family doctor first and then goes to the clinic. I goes over with them the first time. And when they get in their 8 months pregnant, I goes back with them to ask the doctors and the nurses what's over there. Do this particular case is a rupture case, a breech, or just a normal birth. I can't handle no cases but a normal birth. And it's very important that I find out that they're going to have a normal birth. And I see to it.
It's an understanding, I believe, that the perinatal and the maternal mortality rate is higher in the state of Mississippi than it is anywhere else in this country or abroad. And this approximately is about 3 times as high. I would think that there are several reasons why...
Dr. Helen Barnes, the only black obstetrician in Mississippi.
...very high in the state of Mississippi. One, of course, is that we have a great percentage of our mothers delivering at home, completely unattended. The second is that if there is someone in attendance, it's usually an uneducated granny midwife who may or may not realize that the patient is having trouble at the time of delivery. And then, of course, there is the ever-increasing problem of our mothers being progressively younger, and they do not realize that they have to come in for early prenatal care. And lastly, of course, if you wait until the last minute to get prenatal care, you cannot always help a condition that existed prior to the time that the mother was pregnant. Unfortunately, we do not have the bed capacity to keep the ladies in the hospital more than 24 hours. It would be desirable to keep them in, But we only have, the obstetrical department only has a 4-bed capacity. And if you're doing a delivery or 2 per day, you unfortunately do not have the room to keep these ladies. But if we do have one that's severely nutritionally deprived, yes, we keep her on the service.
Most of our students here at Meharry Medical College come from the South. I would say something like 64% from the South. These are mostly black students. Many have been educated completely in the South. Most of our graduates go to the northern ghettos to practice. I would say something pretty close to 80%. Now, some do stay in the South, but the larger number goes to the north, and they practice in the ghettos. Now, some of the reasons why they go to the north, I suspect that they follow the immigration pattern, for one thing. Another thing may be that the north has traditionally, at least more so than the South, offered the kinds of outlets, economic and social outlets, which probably were not present in the South.
We feel there's no point in treating a baby with infectious diarrhea that comes from drinking contaminated water and then sending him back to that same home to drink more water from the drainage ditch and get sick again. And so we see health as a point of entry for all kinds of other social change in the things in the social order that make people ill to start with.
Dr. Jack Geiger, director of the Tufts Delta Health Center. Besides providing health services, the center digs wells, repairs houses, and trains sanitarians like Shelton Woodley.
The Environmental Health Department is concerned with the overflow of sewage, the small kids playing in the area, and from this they could get various disease, hepatitis and whatnot. Also, it's a breeding pool for flies, mosquitoes, and flies will transmit the germ or the bacteria from this into the homes and other restaurants where there's improper screening. Also, the city of Rosedale has a sewage disposal unit, but they're not operating in this section of town for some strange reason. So the inside toilets, they're actually not inside toilets, they're outdoor toilet with the regular commode that has a water connector which flows right out into an open hole that's used for a cesspool. And the absorption of the earth over on in this type soil is very poor. So in the rainy season, it has a tendency to stay above the ground.
The Department of Agriculture says that if you have nothing to spend for food, you have to spend 50 cents. And unfortunately, you know, when you don't have 50 cents for food, you end up taking up credit at various stores. And it's a trend that's very difficult to break, because when families have a little bit of money but not enough to spend what they're supposed to spend for food stamps, they could be supplemented with the commodities. But of course, by law, this is not permitted. You can't have 2 food programs in a county.
About 2.5 miles.
About 2.5 miles. How do you get out here?
Walk.
You walk
or catch a ride.
Or catch a ride. Now, you got no way of buying your food stamps? You have any way of buying your food stamps?
Only out of their income.
Only out of their income. And together, how much is this?
The income?
The income.
Is, $82.80 Social Security and $40 welfare.
Which is about 120.
Something like that.
25.
Something like that. And all expense comes out of just that, because no one working, all the children going to school. So all of our expense comes out of.
Comes out after you buy your food stamps.
Yeah, including
gas.
Yes, yes.
How much do you pay for your food stamps?
Huh?
How much do you pay for your food stamps?
$10.
$10?
$30.
For $30? How many people you have in the family? Just two? Just two for $30.
86, 87, 88, 89.
And how many's in your family?
91.
13.
93.
13. And how much do you pay for your food stamps?
$62.
$62. And do you have any income other?
Well, I guess $132.
$132 a month.
Sir?
$132?
Yeah, I pay $62 for them.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. 95, 96.
Right.
Here's 88. Now, you hear me and I call that number? Here's 98. 99, 100, 101.
I understand you've been sick for how long, sir?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. And tell me how...
Do I sicken?
You know, what kind of money is coming in? Are you getting any money from the state or the federal government?
No, sir, I don't get any money from the state. Just my boss, right? The only little help I get, he gives it to me.
And how much is that about?
Well, just every week he gives us ready about $15 to $20 a week to try to help us along. Then I have to turn it back around when I get my stamps. I have to borrow my money to get my stamps.
You said you have to borrow your money to do what?
To get my stamps.
To get which stamps? The food stamps?
That's right.
And how many's in your family?
7.
I know these numbers out here somewhere.
Okay.
Now, is this enough food to last you a month?
No, it isn't.
Do you have to spend additional money?
Yes, I do.
About how much?
Well, about $25 or $30, I say.
What, a month or a week?
Well, in 2 weeks' time, I mix it like that.
And what do you buy?
Well, I buy such as, juices for the children. Well, I have to buy flour sometime and baking powder and things like that, to go in, and then meats for the children.
Meats? What kind of meats?
Well, such as liver and, a lot of freshness, for sometimes for baking in the morning time for making lunch or something like that.
Evaporated milk.
What do you get in the commodities? Well, I get some lard, flour, and pinto beans, white beans, butter beans, and tomato juice, things like that. Are you getting cans, meats, cans? Yes, meats. What canned meats? Like that.
Now, is this enough to last you for a month?
Yes, sure is.
Last you for a month.
Yeah.
How much do you...
Rice, grits, things like that.
And how far do you come? How do you get here?
Well, I walk, so I don't have no transportation.
You don't have any transportation?
Then when I get my food, then I get someone else, to take me back. How far do you live from here? I live a good little piece back down the road there. I'm going back to Puff today with the steel girl.
Dr. Howard Meadows, director of the OEO Comprehensive Health Program in Lowndes County, Alabama.
Well, Lowndes County is one of the poorest counties in the United States as far as a per capita income. According to a survey that was conducted under the supervision of the University of Alabama Medical School, the Alabama and Lowndes County per capita income for the Negro population was less than $500 per year. We have approximately 7 miles of running water in the county. Approximately half of the county is in an area where water is extremely scarce. Very few springs. Shallow wells just will not produce very much water. You have to go down approximately 1,300 feet.
And what you pay for that?
$1.
Of 50 million school children in this country, fewer than 2 million are able to get a free or reduced price lunch. In the school we visited, only in the first 4 grades did every child eat lunch every day.
Well, how much do you have to pay for lunch here?
15 cents.
Did it used to be more?
Yes.
How much was it?
20 cents.
And why did they lower it?
Because most children, they didn't have enough money to pay for it.
Do the children who get free lunches have to stand in a different line?
Yes. No. They see the children who pay, they stand in front, and those who have free lunch, they stand behind.
Many of the children have never seen the dentist, and they do not know what a toothbrush is made for. So in many cases, we have to remove good teeth that are infected by excessive amount of gum trouble. Before I came here, it hadn't been a dentist in this area of Mount Bayou, Mississippi in 25 years. Many of the patients had to travel 24 miles north of Mount Bayou to Clarksdale, Mississippi, or 18 miles south to Louisville, Mississippi. And some would go as far as 43 miles to Greenville, Mississippi to receive dental health care. Since most of these people here are in the poverty class, they were unable to make these trips. So therefore, many of them told me that they would take a strain and pull the teeth out themselves.
Mr. Watkins, now, about your water, how do you get your water?
I have to tote water from across the railroad over here. Little place on some Boxdales.
About how far is that, would you say, in distance? Half a mile?
I would say quarter of a mile.
Quarter of a mile. And you carry enough water for 12 people, 13 people?
Well, me and my children both, we
That's 11 kids and all?
That's right.
And you and your wife? That's
right.
13 people.
That's right.
Okay, so that's about 250 gallons of water per day. On the average.
Something like that.
All right. Now, have you asked the owner about driving a pump? I understand the water table here is rather high.
Well, I have, but he mentioned something about it was cost too much just to have that well redid over there.
Well, couldn't you just drive one here in the backyard on the side of the house, straight down in the ground? It's only about 35 to 40 feet.
Well, at one time he promised that he would help me, but after the wedge and hour law came on him, he got back on wouldn't help.
So he just refused to let you have a pump.
That's right.
All right.
How many children do you have?
11.
I see. Have you had any of your babies by midwife?
Yes.
And here at home?
I had most of them here, most of them. I only had 3 in the hospital.
Right. And what would the doctor charge you?
Well, from all the time that I would go, I'd say from maybe 7 months on till after the baby comes, sometime around $150, something, 65, something like that.
Is your husband working?
He's working, but not sturdy.
About how much does he make in a month?
It depends on how much you work. On the plantation, if it's rain, that you through. And the man that he works for, he doesn't have a cotton crop, nothing like that. He only have cattle. And he have to see at them every once in a while. So I would say maybe some good months, maybe make $50 or $65, something like that.
Dr. Donald Gatch, fighting hunger and disease in South Carolina, is being victimized by internal and external parasites. While being treated for intestinal roundworms, he is also recuperating from injuries sustained from an attack by a gang of white hoodlums in Bluffton. who objected to his work among black people. It was Gatch's reports that sparked investigations by the Select Committee on Hunger and Needs, headed by Senator McGovern of South Dakota. Incidents of disease and starvation are not confined to the South, however. 2,000 underprivileged families from low-income sections of New York City will be asked to submit to detailed clinical examination, biochemical measurements, and food intake studies. This is part of a 10-state federal nutrition survey to verify claims of widespread undernourishment among urban welfare recipients. Last month, Black Journal examined the crisis in medical care facing black people. Dr. John Bowers, president of the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation, has just announced that the foundation has pledged grants totaling more than $1 million to support medical education programs for minority groups. The grant is in response to the conspicuous shortage of black doctors and the absence of medical students in major universities. Josephine Baker, the sensation who dazzled Europe and the United States since the beginning of her entertainment career in 1926, was recently hospitalized, suffering from exposure and bruises. Miss Baker was physically evicted from her chateau in France. Miss Baker has been sharing her home since 1939 with a succession of adopted children of many nationalities. Her fundraising activities and a return to the stage failed to bring enough money to retain possession of her chateau for the children. Dr. Kenneth Clark, noted psychologist, has asked the New York City Civil Liberties Union to intervene in behalf of 670 black and Puerto Rican students recently dismissed from Franklin K. Lane High School in New York. The Metropolitan Applied Research Center, headed by Dr. Clark, threatens to sue the Board of Education if students are not promptly reinstated. The school system is charged with violating the rights of students by expelling them without a hearing, without the consent of the students or their parents, and finally, without due process. Interestingly, the teachers' union strike, which last year closed down the entire school system, was largely based upon union opposition to teacher removal without due process. Now the teachers' union supports student removal without due process.
Black people have affected the political climate of America since its beginning. Our forced contribution and economic development of the South has been unparalleled. And the cruelest irony is that in the South, our political freedom has been greatly restricted. The social revolution, which has been dramatized by the era of the civil rights demonstrations, is giving way to the fight for political rights of black Americans. Since Reconstruction, the black man has been virtually shut out of the political process in the South. The many years of nonviolent direct action campaigns by civil rights organizations revealed the true nature of the repressive conditions in the South. Selma, 1965. The bloody Selma March and the long fight which preceded it resulted in passage of the Voting Rights Bill of 1965, thus ending the most flagrant forms of discrimination at the polls. Black registration jumped dramatically. In 3 years, it has now doubled to 3,200,000. Today, more than 62% of eligible blacks are registered. Mississippi alone increased registration 800%. And this was the beginning of a political revolution. We had moved from a situation in 1944 where blacks were barred from voting in the so-called white primaries to a position of potential power in 1969. These gains were accomplished in the face of harassments, intimidation, and with a constant threat of violence.
Well, it just isn't safe for a person to be around without any protection. It's very much like living in a forest among lots of beasts. It's not something that you just go around talking about, but you just expect something to happen at any time. I would just be afraid to be out without a gun and without any protection.
Where's yours?
Your mine's here. That's one of them.
Shot one Negro man just simply because they asked the man, said, look, did you go out there and vote for them niggas? He said, yes, I voted for my color. And he shot this man down just like he's a dog. Now, we're not having that type of thing here in Wilson County because we're well organized. And we organize because the fact is this, that we believe in self-preservation. You shoot at me and miss me, I'm not going to miss you. Just that simple.
No, they can't be going to get violent because we just as violent as they are. So therefore,
If they be violent, non-violent, whatever they want to do, we will do it too.
Never taught nonviolence here in this county because we realized our people wasn't violent. It was the white people who were violent. So we thought that they were the one who needed teaching. But our people got together, most of them carried their own guns to protect themselves.
We don't worry about that because we know that it's they aren't going to use them as long as you're looking at them. All the time they use them when you turn your back, and if it's night when they can sneak up behind you and blow your brains out, no one see them. So what we've done, we let them know we got more guts than they have because we don't carry our guns openly. We know that we have guns. There's no question about that, and we'll use them if necessary.
Here it is again, another time before death. We your few handmade servants, lay it all around there, Master God, that you seem fit in your own way. Rock your body off to sleep. And then,
in rural Alabama, the Lowndes County Freedom Party, known by their symbol of the Black Panther, responded courageously to these threats. This is a monthly political meeting still influenced by the church tradition. Party founder, John Hewlett.
And after this long struggle, we still have people who come out here on each Sunday night and listen to us talk, who have worked as faithful with us in this county, are still sending their children to these overcrowded schools. Yeah. Let me say this, the elected officials of this county will do everything possible to keep your children out of the best schools. They control the equipment that goes into these schools. In fact, they control the entire county. They control everything. And they're going to say the best for their children, like any of us would do. Let us do our part. Let us work faithful. Let us try to get the best out of life where our boys and girls will be able to enjoy this life like other men and women have enjoyed in the past. Thank you.
A system of discrimination and oppression leaves many rural blacks with a sense of alienation, a kind of mental enslavement.
I go to Sunday school and tradition have a great effect on humanity. And tradition never was right. It's just a custom of doing that. Right. So then tradition is so we have lived under this kind of condition so long that some of them never will feel to come on up and be on a pair level. I ain't talking about no superior or nothing, I'm just talking about pair level.
Black political power has shaken up the white power structure. The frequent response, arbitrary raising of polling fees, efforts to abolish offices or turn elective offices into appointive ones, redistricting to dilute our vote, intimidation of black officials, and economic reprisals, all have been directed at limiting our political power. These tactics take strange and devious forms. In Memphis, where a black mayoralty victory seemed possible, a runoff law was hurriedly passed.
Yes, they went out into the white communities and frightened the white community by telling them that unless we change this law, we're going to have a nigger in the mayor's office, we're going to have them in the council, we're going to have them in all levels of city government, elected officials, somebody we can't control. This was their selling point into the white communities. And it stampeded a large segment of the white community, and the law was passed.
What was that law? Just explain what that was.
We call it a runoff law.
The white people are trying to resection you where you won't have as much power, you know, when you're in a certain district and you won't have as much power as you
Well,
would.
we always try to go to court, you know. They tried, well, one night I went to bed and didn't turn over and I woke up in another district, but we still a majority. So, you know, we just have to go to court whenever it's necessary.
Fannie Lou Hamer, Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party.
Or not. I've been very concerned with young black people in Mississippi, and there's no need of getting an education, running to some other place. Fight and make it right here. I'd take a chance in Mississippi quicker than I would Chicago, because we at least know where we are here. But they got some of the same hypocrites up there. It's just like these white racists down here. You can tell from what, you know, the Wallace votes that he got, you know. And that's when we have to do our thing right in Mississippi.
My daughter died as a result that I couldn't get a doctor. But I'm still willing and going to fight for all of our freedom. And regardless of all the things that we went through, in 19 1963 or 1964, we didn't have many people registered in the Mississippi. But today we have 60% of the black population registered in Mississippi. We have 42 elected officials in the state of Mississippi. And one day you will be proud when you can say, Senator Fannie Lou Hamer, because I'm on my way, baby.
This kind of spirit and leadership has led to the election of 400 black officials in the South. 3 years ago, there were less than 70. Although this is still only token representation for some 5 million Southern blacks of voting age, significant gains have been made. The Voter Education Project, which convened this historic meeting of elected officials, has made a great contribution all through the South. One of their workers, Tanya Banks, has come to Woodville, Mississippi to assist 2 recently elected members of the school board. The problem? How to fire the school principal.
Now, do you still think that you can get the support of the other white member on the board?
No, I haven't had any talk with him since the board met. But if he still feels as strongly now as he did then, we he's really on our side.
So if he sides with you, then you'll have enough votes to fire this principal.
That's right.
So the problem is getting them to vote on it at the next meeting.
All right.
If you're going to teach kids to have some kind of moral respect for people, you must be able to show them, in your own performance of your duty. And he refused to do this, and he refused to at least hold in the recognition with the community. I mean, he don't know anything about the community. When these fly-by-night teachers come in and he make the money, he gone.
The State House of Representatives, Atlanta, Georgia. There are 12 black members of the House and 2 in the Senate, more than any other Southern legislature. Their presence has meant that questions regarding public policy and the black man are aired. But their efforts to pass major legislation to benefit our people has been largely thwarted. For instance, Senator Leroy Johnson has been trying to pass a teacher tenure bill which would prevent teachers from being fired for their political beliefs and activities.
And I introduced a bill for the purpose of protecting teachers generally, but naturally I was concerned about protecting black teachers. Obviously, if an integration suit is introduced in a small county, it affects the black teacher. The black teacher would, of course, be the first to go, regardless of her qualification.
In other words, the Education Committee said, to heck with teacher tenure. We don't want it.
And I therefore assume, Senator, that it's all right for teachers in Atlanta to have tenure after 3 years as provided by the rules, but it is not all right for teachers in Tatnall, Toome, Wheeler, and other counties in Georgia.
Senator, Tatnall, Toome, and other places in Georgia, if they want to have tenure, it's up to the local board of education to set up a tenure rule whereby they can control their own teachers and do what they want.
Is the senator aware that under Senate Bill 23, a teacher, even after having served 3 years, may be dismissed for insubordination, for inefficiency, for lack of professional conduct?
Senator, you're very well aware that I'm very well aware of everything in this act because I've studied it as well as you. I would just like to ask you back, how many teachers in the Atlanta Board of Education, in the Atlanta system, have been dismissed for cause since such time that we've had the tenure law? None that I know of.
I can assure you quite a few. Quite a few.
No, sir.
I've represented many of them, Senator.
The bill was finally defeated 20 to 29.
As a member of a minority group, I'm accustomed to fighting against great odds. The ray of hope is that we receive 20 votes, and it takes, of course, 29 votes to pass the bill out of the Senate. Now, we're not going to give up. Someone said our head is bloody but unbowed.
Senator Johnson is in the tradition of Southern black legislators who served during Reconstruction. They introduced bills for health and welfare, educational and penal reform, which improved the condition of the black man as well as the poor whites. Paradoxically, whites were victims of their own prejudice as a white backlash swept these black reformers out of office. This same racism has held the South back ever since. The Mississippi Delta has been hard hit by farm mechanization, and for many blacks, conditions of life are desperate. But they had one hope: politics. and they responded by recently electing Representative Robert Clark, the first black man to serve in the Mississippi legislature since 1892.
Quite a few people want to know what can the president, one black man, do and a legislature with 170-some other white people. But my presence there can serve to bring to light the injustices in the laws of the state of Mississippi. My presence there can further serve to give hope to all underprivileged black people throughout the South.
Most of his efforts are directed at helping his constituents in their daily battle for survival.
I'm presently trying to develop a housing project for entire Holmes County to get people out of shacks like this. But just looking around, we are presently working on a housing project that's going to do something about houses like these. Yes, sir. And we find that the business sector that we're having opposition from for our housing project are the individuals that own these projects. We might need y'all's cooperation for signing some papers or so forth, and if we do, can I count on your cooperation?
You can count on it.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
See, this is the age-old thing. All of in the past, they have been good to the so-called top niggers, and then they expect the top niggers to be satisfied and don't say anything about what's happening to the rest of them.
The outrageous violation of our rights is an everyday occurrence in the Delta, and Representative Clark devotes much of his time to coping with the corrupt and discriminatory practices of most state agencies. The price of this man's food stamps have been unaccountably raised.
$2 up to $50, and it was too high for you to buy. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Uh-huh. What's your income? Did your income increase?
No, it didn't.
Why did the price of your stamps go up?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, we'll check on this. What we'll do, we do have some money here that we have raised for emergency food for programs like this. We're going to let you check with Mrs. Hightower, and we're going to feed you today. And we're going to check into this to see why did the price of your stamps go up without your income going up.
The real power in the South is held on the state level, where the most important decisions affecting our lives are made. Dr. Reginald Hawkins recognized this and became the first black man to run for governor.
I ran for the office of governor of North Carolina last May due to the fact that North Carolina had been laboring under a myth that they were the most progressive southern state as it pertains to the black man. And I knew that this was false and that there were attempts in this state to turn the clock back on us, more or less to take away the gains that we had made. So not only did I run to win, I ran to identify and to build up a third force within the state of North Carolina so that never again would the black man be left out of political things in the state of North Carolina. Before this running, the blacks had been used by the politicians in order to defeat the liberal candidate. So by my running and discussing the issues as I did, I was able to get 20% of the vote and become the balance of power in North Carolina. There's a definite need for coalition. The black people, the young people, and the poor people within the state, along with the liberals, need to run together a campaign built around commonalities. We're going to get into that white home. We're going to get to the black man, and we're going to get to the liberals, who together comprise the majority within the state. And I say to the politicians in 70 and 72 that they better watch out, because we're going to have some astute black politicians in North Carolina who's going to tell it like it is.
Charles Evers, whose brother was murdered in 1963, has just announced that he'll run for mayor of Fayette, Mississippi, heading an all-black slate. Prospects for victory are good.
Hi, how are you? How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Are you going to vote for me next
Yes,
May
sir.
17th?
Yes.
What about all these people around here? You going to talk for them so we can get some better housing?
In 1966, there were no blacks registered in this county. It was too dangerous to try. But Charles Evers has changed all that.
No, they did give me a little welfare. They cut that off.
What about the mayor at Boulevard? Have they done anything for you at all?
No.
Supposing you had tried to register 3 years ago, what would they do to you?
They would run us out of there, I reckon.
You run yard.
I tell you this.
Vote for me right here.
Yeah.
Tell everybody around here to vote for me.
Sure they gonna vote for you. I know they is.
You sure? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I know they is.
There's 7,000 Negroes in this county and 2,000 whites. And this is the kind of condition we live in. And now we have got the white folk outnumbered, about 2-to-1 registered. And we've tried to be fair. We didn't elect before. We could elect all Negroes in the past, but we didn't because we thought they might would change. But they just won't change, and they haven't changed, and they have constantly denied us the right to be represented. So we decided that we're going to, how you on? We decided we're going to have to take over the government in order to give everybody a fair shake. So come May 13th, we're going to take it. We're going to take all 5 aldermen and the mayor. They can't fool us no more, and we don't pay any attention. We're going to vote them all the hell out of office, and we're going to vote our folk in. We're going to run this town and other towns in this state. And then when they, 3 years from now, when the governor's up, he's going to beat us again. We're going to have people running for the various offices on the state level, and we mean that. We're not going to let them have nothing here no more just for the asking. They're going to fight for it.
I am the smoke king. I am black. I am darkening with song. I'm hearkening to wrong. I will be black as blackness can. The blacker the mantle, the mightier the man. These are the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, the black scholar, whose 100th birthday was observed recently in ceremonies in the black community. Poet and philosopher, his uncompromising teachings shook the racist foundations of this society. He set the stage for the modern-day freedom movement in the United States, and he encouraged unity among African peoples through the doctrine of Pan-Africanism. Hounded and persecuted for his political views, Dr. Du Bois died in exile in Ghana at the age of 95 on August the 28th, 1963, one day before the famous March on Washington.
It's a pleasure again to be back at the Schoenberg Collection as a branch of the New York Public Library and to be with the curator, Mrs. Jean Hudson. And you know, Mrs. Hudson, the last time I was here with you, we didn't get a chance to talk about W.E.B. Du Bois because this year would have been his 100th birthday. Yes. How about the doctor himself? Did he use this library or the collection very much for his own research?
He often did, but he tended, as most scholars do, to accumulate a library of his own in his own home. You know, he pursued these studies over a period of, well, 70 years at least. Yes.
You know, something else I discovered, too, talking about Du Bois, are these little brownie books. And was this something that he wrote in his spare time? Was this a regular thing with him?
This was a regular activity, and I think it's interesting to recall now that he was so much interested in young people, and even in 1920, so this is when this was published, that our little brown youngsters needed to have some help in handling themselves in the white world.
Well, now, I don't remember any recollection of any steady series of books for black children, even as early as Du Bois. So was
I
this
think
one
he
of the
was
first
a pioneer,
series?
yes.
Do you feel that this library now, or this collection, can serve other uses as it served him to other scholars that came here?
It is, and for the first time, I think the ordinary people use it, you know, just the average people.
In other words, people off the street like me.
The kind of person Mr. Schoenberg was interested in.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, Ms. Hudson. Schoenberg Collection. It's a gas. I don't think most people, most of us anyway, know about the role of black people played in the purchase of Louisiana. The Haitian Revolution of 1797 to 1804 marked a decisive victory in the black man's struggle for emancipation. Toussaint L'Ouverture, who began the struggle of the slaves at Saint Dominique, led his troops to victory over the Spanish armies. And later, when Napoleon's army invaded, he counterattacked with a scorched earth campaign rather than surrender his people to the enemy. He was betrayed in a phony truce deal with Napoleon. This brave general died in exile, but the Haitian people won their freedom under his successor, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, destroying the 15,000 French army in 1803. And that's a sizable force in those days. And Dessalines' victory marked the first military defeat for Napoleon, 12 years before the much-touted Waterloo. With the loss of 60,000 men, the French withdrew from the island, and Haiti emerged a free republic in the Western Hemisphere. It was this victory by black men that enabled the United States to purchase the entire Louisiana territory from the defeated French for 4 cents an acre. What happened to our mule and 40 acres?
J.B. Stoner, well-known racist segregationist lawyer from Georgia, has been hired to represent James Earl Ray in a new trial in connection with the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a year ago. He said that he will help Ray change his plea from guilty to not guilty and will ask for a new trial. It is of interest to know that Stoner, an officer in the segregationist States' Rights Party, has been involved in a great deal of litigation regarding civil rights conflicts. According to the New York Times, Stoner has also been active in white vigilante groups, serving as a chief Klan officer in the Ku Klux Klan in Chattanooga, Tennessee. In 1945, he formed the Stoner Anti-Jewish Party and mailed out pamphlets urging the removal of Jews from this country. While the world wonders about a conspiracy and what role James Earl Ray may have played in that conspiracy, 1 year later, the grief over the loss of Dr. Martin Luther King remains.
I just freaking to walk out the door when the special bulletin flashed on the television that Dr. King had been shot. And I just stood there, you know, a long time. And then a little while later, they said Dr. King was dead. My anger was that of any other black person anywhere in the United States. The 4th of April, how could this happen to a man that had given his life, not just himself, but for his fellow man? And I was angry. And there's a whole lot of other people were angry that he was that nonviolent, but he had to die that violent.
Well, I said this about Dr. King. He had a good thing, good deal. I thought the whole world and a lot of it. And I hated that they stopped him like they did. And I just said I was just going to stick to a good deal of his problems. Now, he said it over and often that he would like to see the times that come when the children, black church children, sit down and play and eat together and do around. And I tried to carry that program out. And I'm still going to try to carry it out.
His personality and his image was that of a giant, somewhere between a giant and God.
Any of you around when I have to meet my day? I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. And every now and then I wonder what I want them to say. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the war question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness.
That's it for tonight, brothers and sisters. Next month, Black Journal will look at the South again, focusing on the economics, legal, and cultural aspects. And for those of our brothers and sisters in the New York area, the next Black Journal will be aired on Monday, April the 28th. And if you live outside the New York area, please check your local television listings. Until next month, then, I'm Lou House with William Greaves. Wangay Sagay.
The preceding program was made possible by a grant from the Polaroid Corporation.
This is NET, the Public Television Network.